first episode of Loop TV. I'm Gene Munster with my co-host Doug Clinton, and this is a forum for us to dive deeper into the questions that we get asked most about. And our first episode is a gift actually from content that has been given for the last several weeks. That's TikTok. Recently, Microsoft has made some overtures towards the company. Obviously, there's the dynamic around President Trump, and Apple recently has said that they are not interested in TikTok. But our episode today discusses why maybe they should be interested. And I'll start with you, Doug. When you heard the rumor that Apple may be in play for TikTok before that they had said that it was not true, what was your reaction?
Reaction was, it actually makes probably more sense than you might think it does. And I think when we've sort of debated this internally, it may be something that seems outside of Apple's culture initially, but I would argue that they are a big player in music. Music is probably the key feature in TikTok when you think about the content on the platform. And Apple's also very active in China. I think when you think of US companies that do business in China, I don't think you can name a company that does better business in China than Apple does. So those two natural ties to me actually say that the tie-up, even though it probably won't happen, makes more sense than you might think. But Gene, what do you think? What would you say about Apple's odds or kind of the fit with TikTok?
Never say never, but I was pretty close to saying that's never going to happen. And odds are maybe a 5% chance that this plays through. Apple didn't say hard stop, they'll never acquire TikTok, so there is a chance that they vector back into it. And what jumped out to me was the long-standing focus that they've had on selling products that enrich people's lives. And I don't say it to support one of their strong statements, but it's more just about this doesn't seem to line up with that. They oftentimes talk about other companies like Facebook making money off their users or Google, and that ultimately is where TikTok is going to go. So I feel like that there would be a marketing challenge around that, and it might not be worth it. The second piece on the music element, I understand, I hear you. The music's a big part of the platform. I'm not a TikTok user. I'm old. I'm 50. That puts me comfortably outside your typical use case. But from my understanding, it's not really about the music. The music enhances the platform. It's more about getting a good laugh, a 15-second laugh. And so I think that that the argument that there's some music connective tissue here from Apple is a little bit of a stretch. Mm-hmm. And the last piece is, imagine any company that acquires TikTok is going to be more probably under a microscope given some of its origins. And I think Apple is more judicious about its reputation than most companies are, most big tech companies. So my take is that it's a slim chance that it ultimately happens. And I'm curious.
One quick question before you ask your question. Well, a statement first. You may be 50, but I also know you love dancing, so I think you'd fit really well in TikTok. The question, though, is Apple has made a big move with Apple TV Plus, and that is about entertainment, that is about content. Do you think that there's any sort of fit there when you think about their content strategy and sort of their video strategy that's really sort of emerging now?
That's why I'd give it a 5% chance, is that content piece. I think that does make sense. I mean, ultimately, what TikTok is it is a massive engagement story. It's probably, to say it in the positive, the negative may say it's addictive, mindless behavior, but it is taking time away from other mediums, and at an alarming rate. We're talking about 100 million active monthly users in the US. So 2 years ago, it was almost non-existent in the US. That compares to Facebook and Instagram combined, they have about 240 million. So this has had vertical success, and I do believe that would be appealing. Trying to cleanse is the word that comes to my mind. Some of that content to make it more representative of Apple's brand. maybe a challenge. I guess they have music on Apple Music that isn't necessarily a direct reflection of their brand too. So there is a precedence there. But I do think that would be the angle. And my thought would be they'd probably have to offer it kind of bundled as part of the other streaming services. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but that probably would be the avenue to go.
Makes
Well,
sense.
curious. I put my odds at 5% chance. The fact that they've now come out and said that it's probably not going to happen, it won't happen, probably won't happen. What odds would you put on it?
5%, 10% seems like the right ballpark, even though they said that they're not interested. I think they should be interested. I think they should at least think about it. I think that your point about the regulatory scrutiny is a good one, and maybe that's ultimately why it just doesn't make sense for them. But Microsoft has been obviously the big name really that's been tied to TikTok. What do you put the odds on that deal actually getting done?
So I'm thinking 25 to 30%. And I still think that the best way forward for TikTok is to weather the storm. It could get pretty nasty. They could be banned. If my guess is they're going to get banned or they get acquired, but is to try to weather through that band. And because ultimately I think that these tensions that have caused us to get to a point where it would be banned will ease in the next 6 months ahead. And I don't think they're going to lose enough traction there. But I'd be curious, what number would you be put on Microsoft acquiring TikTok?
I'd probably go higher. I bet it's more like 60%. I would say that it just feels like, given the current administration, there's a high probability if they do nothing, I think there is a ban. I think that President Trump, certainly he has made the statement that he would ban it. I don't think that he would want to essentially fail in the public eyes to make good on that statement. So I think, he's committed to that route. And I think as a byproduct, TikTok has to be committed to at least exploring these other options. Microsoft is probably their best option. They certainly have the cash to do it. I do think the idea of weathering the storm is actually a really interesting one that people haven't talked a lot about yet. I mean, the risk is, if you're TikTok and you get shut down for 6 months, all your users move to Facebook's new service, the new Instagram service, or maybe they move to something like Byte or Triller, one of the other platforms that's sort of competing with TikTok. What do you think the risk is? Like, do you think that TikTok can actually go dark essentially for 6 months and then come back and still be relevant in social?
I do, and part of the reason why is that it's had such a massive impact that if you think about the really influential content creators, they're starting now to shift some of their focus to these other platforms, essentially creating an insurance policy. And I suspect that as TikTok would come back online, if in fact that's the road, that as soon as that would happen, you'd see uh, those same personalities come back just as a mere insurance policy. And I think that I believe will be enough. There's still a strong brand. Brands can be damaged very quickly, but I think that that insurance policy aspect will produce a lot of the content being made available again on TikTok, and I think the users will ultimately follow with some muscle memory. So, final question here in the minute we have left: how much would you, if you were at Microsoft, Apple, acquiring the U.S. and those other small assets that or other assets that is in play here? What do you think the right number is?
Well, I think the best comp is probably to look at WhatsApp, what Facebook paid for WhatsApp. They paid about $50 per user. Now, that included a lot of international users. This is only higher value US users. So maybe you double that number to 100 or something a little higher, which would get you probably to somewhere in the 10 to $15 billion sort of price tag. When I say that number, I think it sounds cheap, actually. I think it sounds like a bargain, whether it would be for Microsoft or Apple. You could probably argue a number higher. I think that ByteDance and TikTok are in sort of a difficult negotiating position
To
because
say the
of this
least.
looming ban. Yeah, so if you're Microsoft, you obviously want to come in and try to get a deal. I think you still want to be fair to get the deal done. But if I had to put odds on it, something in that 10 to $20 billion range seems about right.
Fantastic. good news is this story, the waves are just going to keep coming. Thank you, Doug. I'm Gene Munster signing off for Loop TV. Bye for now.